You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB.
Let's get you across the Tasman. Australian Correspondent Adam Peacock's with us. Bledisloe 2 this evening, Adam. Did the narrow defeat last weekend give you a bit of optimism the Wallabies could win tonight?
More optimism than 20 minutes into the game, Piney. The balance of the game gave optimism, but yeah, Joe Schmidt, he's not really into noble losses or close losses. He's in about building something, and that 20 minutes obviously wasn't good enough. They need to be better than that, and some set pieces still that they need a lot of work on. But they're things that over time evolve. It's not like the new coach can go and click a finger, oh, the scrum's better, oh, the line-out's better. Like, there are things that they need to work on because, like, maybe the fabric of Australian rugby doesn't teach the fundamentals well enough, so when you get to that stage up against elite opposition like the All Blacks are and like the Northern Hemisphere teams in South Africa, you're going to get exposed. So, there's a little bit more hope at the end of that game than there was midway through, because I thought they were watching another Wallabies performance that they dished up in Argentina, for instance.
We had David Campese on the show last weekend on Sunday, and he I don't know whether this is a theme that's common, you might know, he's not a big fan of having a non-Australian as coach of the Australian rugby team. Is that a widely held view?
Not by me, not by some fans, but I can get Campo's point of view because he's put on the jersey, so I get, like, he might go back to his days when he was sitting there and he'd rather hear from someone who knows where he's from, his backstory, all those things that go into it that you take time to pick up if you're from beyond our borders. So I get what Campo's saying. It's not, I don't think he means any xenophobia by it or anything like that. He probably feels that the Australian jersey means more to an Australian than it does to others, and that goes for the coach as well. But I don't subscribe to that theory. I'm very much a best person for the job, whether they be male, female, Kiwi, Irish, Australian, don't care. And I reckon Joe Schmidt's up there with one of the best available options. All
right, we look forward to this afternoon for you, this evening for us. It's a big day in Australia, the AFL Grand Final. Sydney Swans, Brisbane Lions at the Melbourne Cricket Ground, so two non-Victorian teams. Swans, slight favourites?
Yeah, they've been the best side for the majority of the year. They had a really weird kind of three-quarter point period where they just dropped games for fun after going undefeated for so long to start the season. But Brisbane have just shown this tenacity, and they got to a grand final last year. They've shown this ability in bigger games to kind of just stay in it and then be really, really good when it counted. So that kind of puts the market, a squeeze on the market, I reckon. Like if Brisbane didn't get to the grand final in the manner they did, Swans are probably $1.30 favourites. But yeah, I can see a tight game, especially, and it's kind of captured. Sydney has captured Brisbane, has captured Melbourne, of course, because these two clubs actually started in Melbourne, or a big part of the club. It was South Melbourne for Sydney, and it was Fitzroy for Brisbane before mergers and relocations happened for various reasons. So, yeah, there's a bit of everywhere in the country kind of involved in this one today, and they're expecting record ratings on TV for it because of that.
And to the NRL, week 3 of the finals before the grand final next weekend. The Storm are there, far too good for the Roosters last night. I actually thought the Roosters were a good team until I saw them play Melbourne last night. Any chance the Sharks upset Penrith tonight, or are we Storm Panthers next weekend?
Yeah, about a week ago, Piney, or less than a week ago, after the two games were set, I thought, I can't see either of these two sides getting closer. If there was going to be one of them, it was going to be the Roosters. And I mean, first tackle of the game, they lose their starting front rower, Lindsay Collins, which stuffed their rotations up on the bench. And you know, Lindsay Collins is a world-class player, so he dropped out. And in the end, I mean, Melbourne were just too good, and they picked apart. Melbourne is so good at picking a perceived weakness of a team and then really going at it and making him into a gaping wound, and that's what they did yesterday with Luke Keary and his defence, unable to get the protection to him, so they blew him apart in the first half. Tonight, I can see the same thing happen. Penrith are just so good at being just robotic in what they do at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and I don't think Sharks can cope with them, unfortunately.
And just before you go, high excitement here in New Zealand yesterday with confirmation that Liam Lawson will have a Formula One drive for the rest of this year, and presumably if he does well, he'll keep the seat next year at Red Bull. This, of course, is at the expense of Australian Daniel Ricciardo. What's the reaction been on your side of the Tasman to this?
Yeah, it's nothing to do with Liam Lawson. No, I don't think there's any shade being thrown at him. It's not his fault. He's just a good young driver waiting for an opportunity, like Oscar Piastri, like Daniel Ricciardo did back in the day. It's purely down to Red Bull and how they've handled this. It's been an abomination. Like I think Liam was on your radio station earlier in the week with your breakfast presenter saying that I kind of got wind of this, that this was going to happen 2 weeks ago. Well, if that was the case, give Daniel the due course of a proper send-off when it happens last weekend in Singapore. Instead, he just kind of had to guess for himself and then make his own kind of feelings clear at that Grand Prix, whereas it was really, really average human behaviour, I thought, from the people at Red Bull about not fronting up and not owning their decision. Make the decision, it's fine. The kid's a good driver, obviously, Liam Lawson. There's an outside chance that if Sergio Perez drives like a bastard for the rest of the year, that Liam could be elevated into the main Red Bull team because he's gone into the kind of the junior team. So, just own your decision, and it's fine. Everyone will get on, and I think Daniel Ricciardo would have appreciated that as well. So that's where all the angst from Australia has come this week, because he is so loved over here, Daniel Ricciardo, and will continue to be so.
Yeah, and what next for him? Does he? I mean, he probably won't drive Formula One again, will he? Will he stay in a car of some sort?
No, look, these guys get opportunities to drive. He'll come back and drive things like Bathurst. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up in IndyCar and things like that. There's so many options. He can drive Le Mans, and he can drive various like freelancers, just go around the world and drive races. Nothing like the thrill of and glamour of Formula One. He apparently had the opportunity to become the reserve driver again of Red Bull, and he told him where to stick it. So I can understand that, unless something's changed in the last 24 hours. But mate, one thing I know about Daniel Ricciardo, he'll get on with life, and he'll be okay. He's done pretty well for himself. So it's not like the end of the world for him, and it's, oh my God, he's out in the street and where's he going to live type thing. It's just how you treat people, and that's the thing. And I think Daniel Ricciardo's come out looking better out of this than certainly his ex-bosses.
Absolutely right. Hey, Adam, always great to chat Australian sport with you. Thanks for your time this afternoon. We'll do it again next Saturday.
Cheers, Piney. Go the Wallabies.
Well, I won't echo those thoughts, mate, but good to chat to you nonetheless. Adam Peacock, part of our Saturday afternoons, our Australian correspondent, every Saturday about this time on Weekend Sport.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday, or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.